Over the past few months in 2026, there have been so much going on all at once this year. We have seen so many things, right? Like land prices have shifted, property price have increased. There is also another thing called the EC policy changes, which I have touched on in my last video, which actually will indirectly redirect all the demand which is going next. So I just wanted to create this video because I realized that I've covered so many of these topics, but it's only separately. But in this video, I want to bring everything together because if you have not committed your purchase yet, the real question now for you is no longer whether you should buy or not. The real question is how should you position yourself in the next half of 2026? Should you be looking at a new launch? Should you be looking at a resale property? I guess this video is where we will be touching on all of these things because, as you all know, the market has already shifted. That is why we see recently even Hudson has done quite well despite the place being not so near from MRT. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what has happened so far, what may happen next, how to think about your move more clearly before you commit. And before that, would you take a moment to actually subscribe to my channel because this is where you'll be updated with more video content. As you can see over here, I've touched on quite a few of the critical things that you should know to keep in the know of the current market. And at the same time, if you have not been in my Telegram community, then I'll also invite you to join me there because this is where I share with you my personal opinions and thoughts about what is going on in the market. And at the same time, when there is any developer dropout units, I also share with you via that channel. And these are some information that you probably won't be able to find online. Also want to take a moment to actually appreciate all of you who have reached out to me. I appreciate it. I believe that throughout our chat so far this year, some of you have already chosen to take action. Some of you may have not. So if you still require some professional advice on how to plan forward, you can contact me at 8126-2727. So back to the topic of what should you actually do now given the current market sentiments. And this is important for you to know because in the next 6 to 12 months time, things are going to change rapidly. If you are looking to purchase, if you are looking to make your purchase for a private condo or upgrade to one. For the benefit of those of you who have not watched my video so far, I also want to take a moment to share with you what has happened in the last 6 to 9 months. And over here is basically showing you the difference in the land prices for the individual different regions of Singapore, as well as later on I'll share with you their launch price. There are different colors. Those that are in orange are actually located in the CCR region, and these are the most prime areas of Singapore. The blue ones is actually referring to RCR, which is the city fringe area, and the black ones are actually in the OCR area. So first one we see over here is actually Sky at Holland, and Sky at Holland located in the CCR region. The average land prices was about 1,285 per square foot per plot ratio. And why I want to share with you this because Sky at Holland, which was launched late last year, was sold at an average of $2,950 per square foot. Moving on, during the last quarter of 2025, next we have Penrith, which is located in Queenstown. Land price is actually 1,154 per square foot per plot ratio. In the end, during launch, they actually sold $2,800 per square foot. And moving on, we also have Faber. Faber is actually located more towards the West Coast area, and Faber's land price was actually at around $900 per square foot per plot ratio, which also translates to an average launch price of about $2,100 per square foot. And even when we are looking at Zion Grand or Promenade Peak, the average was about $3,050 per square foot. And moving forward, you can see from here, there is also Nara, Pinery, Tengah, as well. So why am I sharing with you this? Because these are the projects which have been launched this year. Over here, what we have seen so far is basically projects with land prices that have been secured earlier at the old price tag. So these are all the launches which have been transacted already. But what is more important is what is going to happen in 6 to 9 months time, because there is actually a 30% price wave ahead of us. What do I mean by that? Example, when we are looking at Bayshore, which is Vela Bay. So Vela Bay, the land price was actually transacted at 1388 per square foot per plot ratio. And also Hougang is OCR at 1179 per square foot per plot ratio. So this is actually 30% higher than last year's prices. And in fact, for Vela Bay, which was launched last month, the average transacted per square foot was 2886 per square foot, which actually indicates one thing, right? What I have shared with you during my previous video is no longer just on paper. It's actually really materializing right now. And what does this actually mean for you as a buyer today? So to put things into perspective, right? Let's say you have a budget of $1.5 million today. Your current options will probably be a 2-bed, 2-bath in today's market. And why I actually want to share with you this is because 6 to 12 months time, your options will change. So then, if let's say today you have a budget of $1.5 million, do you think that your budget will remain the same in the next 6 months? Highly likely, right? So $1.5 million today versus 6 to 12 months later will change. Because why? Today, you still have the option to buy into a 2-bed, 2-bath. But 6 to 12 months time, with the 30% price wave ahead of us, there is only 2 possible scenarios. With the same budget, first, you can potentially get a 2-bed, 2-bath. But this is provided that you get a very, very good queue number and you have a lot of good luck. If your ballot number is not as positive, then there is a higher chance of you being able to only go to a 2-bed, 1-bath. So usually when I talk about this, then there will be buyers who say, hey, then looking at this, then never mind lah. I would much rather wait for the next upcoming launches and ballot first and try my luck. And if really cannot, then let's just go for the resale option lah. And in fact, I would say that whatever that you're thinking right now is very normal. But I would say that usually if you're thinking this way, it is also a trap. Why? Because if you are thinking this, I would rather you just go for your resale choice now as compared to 6 to 12 months time. Why? Because if new launch prices were to increase, resale prices will also increase in tandem, right? So today, based on $1.5 million for a resale option, I would say that there is a high chance that you'll be able to get a 2-bed, 2-bath at $1.5 million, or your next option will be a 3-bed, 2-bath, which is a resale EC. And because what I mentioned earlier, resale price actually will increase in tandem. So it means that if resale price were to increase in tandem, today your option will be a resale 2-bed, 2-bath or 3-bed, 2-bath. But moving on in 6 to 12 months time later on down the line, the max that you probably can get is a 2-bed, 2-bath. So then comes the next question that you really have to ask yourself right now. Would you rather be in a position where later on, after all the balloting ready, where you can only buy a resale 2-bed, 2-bath, or 6 to 12 months time, a 2-bed, 2-bath, provided you have a very good queue number, or just a new launch 2-bed, 1-bath? Or would you rather be in the position today where you can still get a new launch 2-bed, 2-bath in today's market? Why I also want to share with you this is because, in fact, now when we look back, actually when is the best position for you as a buyer today? Actually looking back, is your thinking also here, where we are talking about Sky at Holland, Zion and Promenade Peak, Faber, Residence or Penrith? But actually, honestly, I feel that most of us watching this video, we have already missed all of this already. So if we are looking forward, we already know that there is a 30% price wave that is coming in and increasing. I guess it's for you to ask yourself, do you still want to wait and leave everything up to guesswork where we are leaving everything up to balloting? Or do you actually want to be in the position where you enter into the market before the next step up fully comes? So by then, based on whatever they have shared so far, with the same budget, we actually will be left with lesser and lesser option, whether is it today we are looking at a new launch or a resale. And at the end of the day, we may only be left with the option of settling for a smaller unit or even settling for a resale that might not be as good. Yeah, I'm not saying whether a new launch or resale is better. It's more of sharing with you and hoping to give you clarity and having you ask yourself, do you actually want to buy when you have more options, more choices, or do you actually want to act later when your budget starts forcing you to compromise your options? While we are at this topic, there are two different categories right now, which is new launch and resale. So let us look at the other side first, which is a resale property. Let's say this year we decide to commit to a resale property and this is 2026. When is the earliest we can sell? 2030, right? So today, if we have a budget of $1.5 million in 2026, the earliest time we can sell is 2030. And if you are buying a property of $1.5 million, how much would you want to sell to make profit? So if you were to buy 1.5, sell $1.8 million, your profit is $300,000. Let's say your neighbor will want to sell their property as well, right? How much do you think they will sell? Will they also benchmark their selling price to your listing price as well? There is also a very good chance for these sellers, which are your neighbors, to be first owners as well. So these owners, their entry price is definitely not what you purchase at. Their entry price could be maybe $1.1 million, $1.2 million, thereabout lah, right? So why I want to share with you this is because end day these owners will just benchmark their selling price based on other listings lah. And because this is your selling price ma, so they will want to follow your selling price as well. But now the next question is, if these owners, they purchase at $1.1 to $1.2 million, right? Do they have to sell at $1.8 million to make a profit? Because if they do not have to sell at $1.8 million to make a profit, they are sitting on a very different profit position as compared to you. Why? Because if the market is not fantastic, but they for some reason have to move out of the property, can they actually sell at $1.5 million or even $1.4 million to make a profit? In fact, even if they sell at $1.4 to $1.5 million, they are already sitting on $300,000 to $400,000 of profit margin. Why I actually want to share with you this is because we also have to ask ourselves, if the first owners can afford to sell at this price, can we afford to sell at this price if this is our entry price? Highly likely no, right? Because if we were to factor in our costs, reno, interest, property tax, stamp duty, I think the minimum selling price that is relatively decent will be at least $1.6 to $1.65 million. And here's the thing, right? If the market is not doing as fantastic, and there are the first owners who don't mind selling at this price to exit the market, they list it on Property Guru at $1.4 to $1.5 million. And because we bought at a higher entry price, is listing at $1.6 to $1.65 million. Do you think the future buyers will actually pay you $250,000 more above transacted? Even if yours has the best reno, best facing, best highest floor level, from a perspective of a resale buyer, will you actually pay that premium of $250,000 even if you really like it when the past transaction is $1.4 to $1.5 million? And the second thing that we also need to be very wary of is if these units get transacted first, this reflects into the past transaction, which ultimately also boils down to how the banks will value your property as well. So if it boils down to bank valuation, suddenly your expected price of $1.65 million is very far off from the valuation price. Then my only worry is you might not have the flexibility to exit out of the property as compared to what the first owners have because they entered at a much lower price than you. Not saying that resale cannot buy, but a lot of buyers actually approach resale as the cheaper option, and just because it's cheaper is better. But it's more of you also having to weigh out whether when you want to buy this property, this resale property, when you want to sell in the future, can the market actually support the price that you need? So now if we were to actually summarize everything, actually between 2 points of point A or point B, if we given a choice today, which position would it be safer for you to go for? Is it point A over here or is it point B? Just want to emphasize again, not saying that resale property cannot buy, but I feel that it's very important for me to share with you what is the risk factor for choosing a resale property first. And only after you understand the risk factor and you are prepared, and this is something that you have to go through, and if you're ready for it, then we can go and think about choosing what is the right kind of property to look at. There is also scenarios whereby some of you here watching right now, you really need a place to stay. So if you really need a place to stay, not saying resale cannot buy, it's more of if you don't need to undertake this risk, then where is actually a safer place for you to go? Is it point A or point B? I think we can all agree that it is point B, right? And since now we feel that point A as a brand new owner actually gives you a better position, but does it mean that all new launch can buy? No ma, right? In fact, there are still some new launches that don't make money also too. Actually, new launch properties have risks also too. In fact, new launch prices, can we also agree that a lot of them are at all-time high price? So how do we determine whether a new launch is risky or not for us to even consider? And whenever I talk about this topic, there's a lot of people who naturally will think, oh, this agent is trying to sell me something. Then they will just completely cut off that option for themselves. Then they will naturally just focus on resale option instead. But actually for me, my goal here to share on this video is to share with you both sides of the options so that you can weigh out the pros and cons yourself. If you are able and you can accept the risk of a resale property, then go for it. Vice versa for new launch as well, isn't it? But my goal here, my job here is to help you to see clearly based on what is available, based on what you can do, which is a better choice for you. Okay? Based on new launch property, how do we actually determine risks? Most natural thinking for a buyer today who is thinking of going to a new launch is resale property is much cheaper than new launch. New launch is super expensive. For example, just to illustrate, this is property A. Property A is actually a resale property and is selling at an average of $2,000 per square foot. Whereas the surrounding just nearby, there is this new launch property which is selling at $2,800 per square foot. And if we are looking based on property A and property B, naturally, which one do you feel that is safer as a buyer? It is property A, right? Because property A is a resale property that is $800 cheaper than the surrounding. And this is usually where buyers will stop thinking about it. Buyers will think that new launch too expensive. I will not consider new launch. But actually, a lot of people fail to see that there are also other options. For example, what if I were to tell you that surrounding this property A, there is property C, which is also a new launch property and selling at $2,000 to $2,200 per square foot. So if we are comparing this between property A versus property C, now, which do you think is better? It goes back to asking yourself, would you rather be entering together with the other people at the same time at around the same price and you are not at the mercy of first owners? Or is the better choice actually this resale property? I would guess naturally anyone would to think that property C is actually the better option. Because why? For example, if I compare this to iPhone 14 versus iPhone 17, both at same price, which will you choose first? Definitely iPhone 17 ma, which is also the same principle as what I'm comparing between property A versus property C. So why am I sharing with you this? Is because when a lot of people are looking at new launches, they automatically relate it to new launch price being super high. But in certain parts of Singapore, actually there are properties like property C leh. So instead of thinking whether is it a resale property or a new launch property, the real question that you should ask yourself is which one actually give you the safer entry price based on the surrounding benchmark prices, and at the same time what is the age of the surrounding projects and what is the next future launches going to be priced at. And based on whatever that you have evaluated, which is usually what I do for my clients as well, then you can decide whether you should go for a resale property or a new launch property. And in fact, that was a very simple illustration. In my past few videos, I have shared with you this strategy called the V-shaped strategy, where we can always use future prices to future-proof our entry price and also know that we will be able to sell at a good price in the future. But this is on the account that you are buying with a lower land cost and based on a lower interest rate, which also at the same time affects your cost of holding the property as well. And how I actually use these strategies, which I've shared in my previous few videos as well, is by going through swapping from non-harmonized project to harmonized project, buying at a better location, or upgrading to a bigger unit with either lower per square foot or lower quantum. So in short, I'm not just looking at whether it's a resale or new launch. What I'm actually looking at is where the government policy is shifting the demand, where land prices are setting the next benchmark, and whether your entry price today is still safe relative to what is coming next. Because honestly, based on how I see it, not every new launch is safe, and also not every resale is safer. The real question is, with your budget today, where can you actually position yourself in the best manner before your choices string later on? So if you are currently wondering whether you should go for a new launch or a resale property, whether you should wait, whether is it a good time for you to sell or buy, I feel that right now is actually the best time for you to sit down and map out based on your current budget, what can you buy today? What is likely the options you can buy in 6 to 12 months later? And which are the options that can still give you a safe entry and exit time? Because honestly, once the market shifts down the road, very often it's not that you as a buyer cannot buy. It's just that your choices will be very limited in 6 to 12 months time. And ultimately, you might have to compromise into something that you might not actually like that much. So with that, I end off today's video. If you have enjoyed my content so far, would you take a moment to like and subscribe to my channel? Join me at my Telegram community because this is where I get to chat with you guys for a bit. You can reach me at 81262727 for any real estate enquiries. I'll be happy to talk to you more personally there. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video.